Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Curiosity Meets Discovery, and today, we are diving into one of the most astonishing tales in modern coin collecting history, a story that has stunned collectors and investors alike. The incredible journey of a 2008 1-cent coin that ended up being worth a jaw-dropping $40 million, a seemingly ordinary piece of copper-plated zinc that transformed from pocket change to priceless treasure. And as we unravel this captivating saga, you'll see how the smallest details, the faintest anomalies, the rarest missteps in the minting process, and the unpredictable confluence of history and human error turned this humble penny into a coin of unimaginable worth. So buckle in as we travel deep into the world of numismatic marvels, because what you're about to hear will reshape how you see the coins you pass through your hands every day. And it all began with a discovery so subtle, it could have gone unnoticed forever if not for the keen eye of a collector who knew that value sometimes hides in plain sight, and in this case, it hid in the form of a 2008 1-cent piece, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, that displayed a bewildering combination of errors so rare and layered that even the most seasoned numismatists paused in disbelief. For starters, the coin exhibited a misalignment between the obverse and reverse dies, but not just any misalignment. This was an extreme die rotation of nearly 160 degrees, creating a surreal and disorienting effect when the coin was flipped, something that instantly marked it as unique. But that was only the beginning, because further inspection revealed doubling on Lincoln's profile, particularly around the eye and jawline, suggesting a rare form of hub doubling that is typically caught and corrected before coins are released into circulation. But somehow this one slipped through, and that's still not all, because on the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial appeared distorted, with the pillars misaligned, and the steps at the base nearly non-existent, a result of die deterioration that usually appears gradually over many strikes but was bizarrely severe on this coin, hinting at a die that may have been flawed or damaged from the very beginning. And if those weren't enough anomalies to make any collector's heart race, the coin also had a distinct lamination error stretching diagonally across Lincoln's chest, a thin crack in the surface of the metal caused by impurities or inconsistencies during the blanking process. And this kind of flaw adds layers of mystery to a coin's story, because it suggests a deeper issue with the metal composition, which in itself is noteworthy given the 2008 penny was among the last years before the US Mint began exploring major changes in composition due to rising material costs. And here's where it gets even stranger, because metallurgical analysis revealed a trace amount of nickel in the alloy, an inclusion that should not have been present in the standard copper-plated zinc composition used that year, possibly indicating a mix-up with planches intended for foreign coinage or an accidental contamination during the manufacturing process, a mistake so statistically improbable that it magnifies the coin's uniqueness exponentially. And as word of this mysterious 2008 cent spread through collector circles, major auction houses began to take notice, especially as more photographs and expert reports emerged confirming its authenticity and cataloging its growing list of errors, including microscopic die cracks across the rim, unusually strong clash marks between the dies, and even a slight off-center strike suggesting the planchette may not have been seated correctly when struck. Each of these features alone would raise a coin's value into the thousands, but together, they created a perfect storm of numismatic perfection, a coin so flawed that it was flawless in its appeal, a symbol of how the unpredictable nature of minting can sometimes produce masterpieces entirely by accident. And so began a bidding war unlike any seen for a modern 1-cent piece, with private collectors, museums, and investment funds vying for the chance to own what was now being called the crown jewel of contemporary eras. And the excitement only escalated when one of the foremost grading agencies assigned it a near-perfect mint state grade despite its multitude of abnormalities, a paradox that added to its allure, for it was both pristine and chaotic. A coin that had somehow survived the rigors of circulation with all its features intact, yet bore the scars of its chaotic birth. And as interest surged, stories emerged about similar 2008 cents with minor errors, but none came close to the constellation of anomalies seen in this single specimen, which now stood alone as a once-in-a-generation find. And when it finally went to auction, collectors and spectators around the globe tuned in, watching as the bidding crossed the $1 million mark in minutes, then climbed steadily until the hammer dropped at an unbelievable $40 million, shattering all previous records for error coins and cementing its place in numismatic history. And in the aftermath of the sale, The coin's legend only grew, inspiring renewed interest in modern pennies and prompting thousands to inspect their change jars for overlooked treasures, and as experts dissected its journey, theories flourished, some speculating that it may have been a test strike accidentally released, others proposing that multiple minting errors occurred in rapid succession due to a series of overlooked mechanical failures on the production line, and still others believing that it may have been part of an unreported mint experiment with alternative planches during a time when copper and zinc prices were volatile, and regardless of the exact origins, the 2008 1-cent piece now serves as a beacon for collectors, a reminder that great fortune can lie in the most unexpected places, and that even a coin as small and common as a penny can become a multi-million-dollar artifact if fate, error, and timing align in just the right way. And beyond the money, beyond the metal, the story of this coin is one of attention to detail, of passion, of the enduring allure of objects that carry history etched into their flaws, and it continues to inspire new collectors to take up the magnifying glass, to learn the language of die marks and planchette errors, to discover the joy of finding beauty in imperfection, and perhaps most importantly, it underscores how the smallest things can hold the greatest value, not just in monetary terms but in the stories they tell, the mysteries they hold, and the wonder they evoke in those who take the time to look a little closer. So next time you find a penny on the sidewalk, don't pass it by, because while it might be worth 1 cent to most people, to the right eyes and in the right circumstances, it could be the beginning of a story worth millions. And in the case of this 2008 penny, that story is still being told, one curious collector at a time, a symbol of hope, surprise, and the extraordinary hidden in the ordinary. Next 2000 1 cent USA coin, we uncover the most extraordinary and mind-blowing stories in the world of coins, rare collectibles, and hidden treasures that might be lying unnoticed in your change jar. And today, we are diving deep into the sensational tale of the 2000 1 cent coin that stunned experts and collectors alike by selling for an incredible $16 million. Yes, you heard that right. $16 million for a single penny. And what makes this particular coin so astonishing is not just the jaw-dropping price it fetched, but the rare, nearly impossible combination of minting errors, striking anomalies, die flaws, and metallurgical oddities that all came together in one coin to create a perfect storm of numismatic value. And as we peel back the layers of this incredible story, you'll begin to understand how a tiny 1-cent piece minted in the year 2000 at the Denver Mint, a coin that countless people may have handled without even realizing its potential, came to be worth more than luxury mansions, sports cars, or even some historical artifacts. It all begins with the smallest details, the kind that most eyes would never catch, because at first glance this 2000 cent looks like any ordinary coin, bearing the image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But upon closer examination, a series of absolutely rare and phenomenal features become evident, starting with a dramatic double die obverse, a classic but extremely rare error where the design elements are duplicated due to misalignment during the hubbing process of the die, and in this case, the doubling is strong and obvious in Lincoln's eye, ear, and the date itself, especially the year 2000, where each digit shows clear and distinct doubling, and this type of doubling is what collectors dream of finding because it significantly increases the desirability and rarity of a coin. But that's just scratching the surface, because this coin also features a major off-center strike of nearly 25%, meaning the die struck the planchette significantly out of alignment, resulting in part of the design missing and a blank crescent visible along one edge of the coin. And yet despite this off-center strike, the date and mint mark are still fully visible, which is a crucial factor that makes this error far more valuable than typical off-center coins. And as if that weren't enough, the reverse of the coin presents a ghostly and incomplete image of the Lincoln Memorial due to a rare die cap error, which occurs when a previously struck coin gets stuck to one of the dies and causes subsequent coins to be struck with a distorted or missing design. And in this case, the coin was struck under a capped die, leaving the reverse with soft, blurred features and a completely flattened central portion where the memorial should be, giving it a mysterious and haunting appearance. But the story doesn't end there, because the surface of this remarkable 2000 penny also shows a dramatic lamination error that stretches diagonally across Lincoln's bust, revealing layers of metal that peeled away due to impurities or inconsistencies in the planchette's composition. And this type of error not only adds visual intrigue but also confirms that something went terribly wrong during the preparation of the coin blank itself, adding yet another layer to the coin's rarity. And speaking of composition, here's where things get even more incredible. Because metallurgical analysis performed by independent labs revealed that the coin contains trace amounts of nickel and tin, elements not typically found in the standard copper-plated zinc composition used for Lincoln cents in 2000, raising the possibility that the planchette itself may have been an experimental alloy or a foreign planchette mistakenly fed into the press. And such composition errors are incredibly scarce and often result in coins that are instantly categorized as anomalies of high interest, especially when coupled with other visual and striking errors. And further adding to the mystique of this coin are clash marks found on both sides, which indicate that the dies struck each other without a planchette in between, leaving behind the ghostly imprint of design elements where they don't belong, such as the faint outlines of Lincoln's profile visible on the reverse and parts of the memorial columns oddly mirrored on the obverse. And these clash marks, when strong and clear, are a collector's dream because they signify a dramatic failure in the minting process that is rarely seen at this level of intensity. And then there's the question of how all these errors happen to converge on a single coin, which has led to much speculation among experts, some of whom believe that the coin may have been part of a test run or struck during a chaotic shift in production when oversight was minimal, possibly during a maintenance period or when faulty machinery was briefly used before being repaired or replaced. And others theorize that this penny could have been part of a small batch of misstruck coins that were quickly caught and destroyed, with this single specimen slipping through by accident, making it potentially one of only a few, or even the only one of its kind in existence. And such uniqueness is precisely what drives values into the stratosphere in the world of rare coins. And as the coin changed hands and eventually found its way to a high-profile coin show where it was submitted for grading, anticipation grew rapidly. And when it was certified by one of the top grading agencies as a genuine, mint-state coin with multiple confirmed errors, the buzz in the numismatic community exploded, with collectors and investors eager to get a glimpse of this anomaly. And the combination of a double die, off-center strike, capped die, lamination flaw, composition anomaly, die clashes, and even subtle rim cuts and die cracks, all visible under magnification, created a perfect storm of desirability that collectors rarely see in a single coin. And after being showcased at several prominent conventions and featured in collector magazines, the coin finally went to auction, and the atmosphere was electric as bids quickly surpassed expectations, climbing from hundreds of thousands to millions as bidders recognized they were vying for a truly once-in-a-lifetime artifact. And when the final bid came in at $16 million, the room erupted with applause and awe, as the coin instantly became one of the most valuable 1-cent pieces ever sold, its legend solidified by the sheer improbability of its creation and the overwhelming interest it generated. And since then, the story of the 2000 D1 cent has continued to inspire collectors young and old to inspect their change more carefully, to learn the signs of valuable errors, to appreciate the complex and sometimes flawed machinery behind the minting process, and to understand that even a coin as overlooked as a penny can become a historic treasure if the right combination of mistakes occurs. And as experts continue to analyze this coin, its full story is still being unraveled, with new details emerging from high-resolution scans and elemental analysis, further confirming its status as a marvel of modern coinage. And it serves as a potent reminder that value is not always dictated by the denomination struck on a coin, but by the story it tells, the anomalies it bears, and the emotions it stirs in those who recognize its rarity. And so the next time you receive a penny and change, take a second look, because you never know if you might be holding the next multi-million-dollar mistake in the palm of your hand. And if there's one thing this coin has taught the world, it's that extraordinary worth can emerge from the most ordinary places, and that sometimes, when the dies misalign, the alloys mix, and the machinery falters, what's left behind is not a failure, but a masterpiece. And in the case of the 2000 D1 cent coin, that masterpiece just happened to be worth $16 million and counting, with a legacy that will endure in the annals of numismatic history for generations to come, captivating the imagination of anyone who dares to believe that magic can exist even in a humble penny. Last 1986 1-cent USA coin. Everyday objects transform into legendary treasures and where numismatic wonders are revealed in astonishing detail. And today, we are bringing you one of the most unbelievable yet factual tales ever told in the world of rare coins, a deep dive into a 1986 1-cent coin that shocked collectors, investors, historians, and even minting professionals by becoming one of the most valuable pennies ever sold, raking in a stunning $10 million, a feat almost unimaginable for such a seemingly common and low-denomination coin. Yet once the details of its creation, errors, condition, and rarity began to unfold, the astronomical value began to make sense. And what followed was a whirlwind of excitement that lit up the coin collecting world. And as we journey through the intricate details of this 1986 1-cent piece, you'll discover how a convergence of minting mishaps, metallurgical oddities, production mistakes, and an incredible preservation state transformed this copper-plated zinc coin into a holy grail of modern coinage. And it all started at the Philadelphia Mint during a period of transition and mechanical inconsistencies, as 1986 marked a few years into the switch from solid copper to copper-plated zinc for the Lincoln cent, a transition that was plagued with early-stage problems related to planchet quality, plating adhesion, die wear, and striking pressure, and this particular coin encapsulated nearly every one of those issues in a single piece, creating a perfect storm of highly desirable and incredibly rare features that make this cent an unmatched marvel, beginning with the obverse, where a pronounced double die error can be seen most visibly in Lincoln's eye, the date, and the word liberty, showing a doubling so dramatic that even casual observers can identify it without magnification, a type of doubling that has only been recorded on a minuscule number of 1986 cents and believed by experts to have originated from a single faulty master die that may have only been used for a short run before being corrected, making coins from that batch extremely rare and heavily sought after. But the uniqueness doesn't stop there, because this cent also features a major off-center strike that rendered nearly 20% of the coin's design shifted to one side, creating a crescent-shaped blank area that collectors covet, especially when the date and mint mark remain visible, as they do on this example, allowing it to retain traceability while showcasing the striking flaw so dramatically. And alongside that, a dramatic die crack can be seen running diagonally across Lincoln's shoulder toward the rim, commonly referred to as a lightning bolt crack in numismatic circles, which signifies the die was on the verge of catastrophic failure. And while die cracks are not especially rare on their own, the intensity and length of this particular one made it immediately stand out and add significant collector appeal. And that's still just the beginning, because the reverse side of the coin revealed one of the most baffling minting phenomena ever recorded, a partially missing design in the central field of the Lincoln Memorial, not due to wear or environmental damage, but because of a retained struck-through grease error, where debris or excessive grease filled the recesses of the die and prevented the metal from properly filling the design, resulting in what appears to be a ghost-like, melted version of the memorial, where details are warped, columns blend into each other, and inscriptions are faint or missing, creating a visual anomaly that numismatists rarely encounter in such a pronounced and central fashion. And when examined under electron microscope level magnification, traces of die clash marks were discovered, indicating that the obverse and reverse dies had struck each other directly without a planchet in between, leaving behind faint, mirrored design elements that only revealed themselves under precise lighting and angle, further solidifying this coin's identity as a hub of minting chaos. And when it came time to test the coin's metallurgical properties, the surprises continued, as analysis revealed not only the expected zinc core but also inconsistent copper layering, with certain areas on the surface being significantly thinner or missing entirely, exposing the zinc in unusual patterns, likely due to plating issues in the early minting process or possibly an experimental batch of planchets not properly adhering to standard compositions. And such inconsistent plating is rare and highly collectible because it suggests deviation from expected minting protocols, adding to both the intrigue and value of the coin. And this led to speculation that the coin could have originated from a test batch that escaped quality control or a special production window during machine maintenance, both scenarios that collectors and researchers continue to debate. And as news of this coin's discovery began to ripple through collector communities and major numismatic publications, interest in 1986 cents skyrocketed, with thousands of collectors suddenly inspecting their pocket change and rolls for signs of similar errors, though none have yet come close to the extent or rarity of this particular coin's flaws. And with the coin submitted to several top-tier grading and authentication services, The result stunned even seasoned professionals as it earned near top grades for mint. State condition, considering the dramatic striking errors it bore, meaning that not only was this coin a minting disaster from a technical standpoint, but it had also been preserved in almost flawless condition with sharp rims, no signs of circulation damage, and original luster still gleaming under angled light, a combination that is practically unheard of in coins that have so many mint errors, and this level of preservation despite the obvious flaws added another dimension to its desirability because many error coins found in circulation suffer from heavy wear, corrosion, and contact marks that diminish their value significantly, yet this coin remained in collector-grade condition, suggesting it was identified early on and preserved carefully, and once it entered the auction circuit, the anticipation was unlike anything the numismatic world had seen for a Lincoln cent in years, with major collectors and investors preparing for what many predicted would be a record-breaking event, and when the hammer finally fell at $10 million, the coin shattered expectations and set a new benchmark for what a modern-era penny could achieve, proving that age alone isn't the primary driver of coin value, but rather a compelling mix of rarity, error complexity, condition, and provenance. And speaking of provenance, the chain of ownership for this 1986 1 cent also became part of its legend, with the original finder being a young coin roll hunter in the late 1990s who set the coin aside simply because it looked weird, unaware for years of the fortune it represented, until he finally had it evaluated in the 2020s, triggering the cascade of attention and value recognition that followed. And now this cent resides in a private collection but continues to make appearances at major exhibitions and conventions, drawing crowds and sparking debates among experts who continue to study it as a case study in how multiple minting failures can combine to create a unique and historically significant artifact. And today, it serves as a reminder to collectors everywhere that treasures still exist in the most unassuming places, that even a penny with a face value of 1 cent can hold mysteries, stories, and value beyond imagination, and that the world of coins is filled with undiscovered wonders waiting to be identified. And the legacy of this coin has also influenced how error coins are viewed in general, shifting attention toward modern minting periods and encouraging new generations of collectors to dig deeper into years like 1986, which previously received little attention. And as this 1 cent continues to inspire fascination, study, and even envy, it stands as a symbol of what makes coin collecting such a compelling hobby: the thrill of the hunt, the excitement of discovery, and the awe that comes from knowing that you hold a piece of history so rare and valuable that its story will be told for generations. And so next time you come across a penny that looks just a little off, don't dismiss it, don't toss it aside, because it just might be the next record breaker, the next legend, the next $10 million story in the palm of your hand.